Number 9, Armageddon 2001.
When you include a future date in the title of something, you know that, sooner or later, it is going to end up as a past date and have folks chuckling a bit. However, that didn't stop DC from creating Armageddon 2001 in 1991.
In the year 2030, the world is ruled by the benevolent dictator called Monarch.
A scientist named Matthew Ryder discovers that Monarch was originally a superhero who, in the year 2001, would take over the world. Matthew Ryder volunteers for a time-traveling experiment that would take him back to 1991. As Ryder travels, he is transformed, gaining time travel abilities, and takes the name Wave Rider.
In his new identity, he travels from hero to hero,
using his power to see what the future holds for them, trying to find out which one would become Monarch. Actually, who it turns out to be is not who DC originally intended. You see, the true identity of Monarch was accidentally leaked. Rather than go ahead, despite the fact that it was no longer a surprise, they rewrote the ending. To make things worse, the hero that they chose as the new Monarch was shown in previous issues that he couldn't have been Monarch. Whoops! Despite this flaw, the flash forwards into possible futures was a nifty hook for this series. Armageddon 2001 time travels to number 9. Number 8, DC 1 Million. If you think going 10 years into the future was something, this event topped that. It even went beyond the 1,000 years into the future, which is the age of the Legion of superheroes. They jumped all the way to the 853rd century. That is the year that, if a series continued at a standard publishing schedule, would have ended up at issue number 1 million. In this story, the Justice League of America gets a visit from its future counterpart, the Justice Legion Alpha. This includes Superman, Wonder Woman, Hourman, Starman, Aquaman, The Flash, and Batman of the 853rd century. It seems that the original Superman is still alive in the future, now known as Superman Prime, no relation to that hideous atrocity of more recent times, and has spent the last 15,000 or so years in exile in the heart of the sun.
However, he's about to emerge from the sun once more, and so the Justice Legion sends the Justice League to the future to join in the festivities.
Do I really have to tell you that the Justice League doesn't end up simply having to sign autographs and give speeches? The Justice Legion is betrayed and trapped in the past as a global-wide virus starts causing people to act in aggressive and violent ways. Meanwhile, the Justice League must take on the return of one of the Justice Legion's villains. This event takes the flash-forward look that was explored in Armageddon 2001 and stretches it way beyond. Whereas Armageddon tend to show a dystopian look at the future, this series gives us one where we get to see how several centuries of superheroics can lead to a dazzling future. Number 8 goes to DC 1 Million. Number 7, Secret Wars 2. This is a bit of a sentimental favorite of mine. You may be wondering why I didn't put the original Secret Wars here in its place. Well, while Secret Wars did have several heroes and villains coming together for the story, it was all contained in the Secret Wars series itself pretty much. Although the books outside the series may have mentioned it, and there were some that showed the fallout from the events that took place after it, you really didn't see the other titles tying into that event. Not so with Secret Wars 2. In it, the primary motivator for the original Secret Wars, a sentient universe who calls himself the Beyonder, comes to Earth. He is still curious about, basically, what is life and what it is like to be immortal. He takes on human form and travels the world, learning from both ordinary folks as well as the superpowered inhabitants. While some of the morals of his lessons are a bit heavy-handed, it's still made for a good read back in the mid-80s. Secret War 2 goes beyond the call to number 7.
Number 6, Secret Invasion.
This series pulled off one heck of a mind trip. The idea was that some of the most subtly powerful superheroes, after an event that happened several years ago, band together to protect the planet in a more proactive, if secretive, way. One of these ways was to launch an attack to the Skrull Empire and to warn them that further invasion attempts would result in additional reprisals. Unfortunately, the group gets captured and examined by the Skrulls before they manage to escape. Soon after that, the Skrulls use the data they collected to create a way to enhance their own natural shapeshifting talents so that they can perfectly imitate anyone. This means that any superhero or villain could not only be a Skrull agent, but could have been one for years. As you can imagine, fans were spending a great deal of time trying to guess who was the real deal and who was an agent. Secret Invasion infiltrates into the number 6 spot.
Number 5, Invasion.
Say, this is beginning to sound like one of those word link puzzles. Invasion was one of the great DC events. The concept was simple. A group of various alien races are convinced to join with a race called the Dominators to invade Earth, due to the fact that the planet has one of the largest number of unique, superpowered individuals. They start by attacking Earth's alien allies, then take the battle to Earth itself. This was a great showcase of DC's alien races. It also gave us one of the reasons why so many folks seem to gain superpowers after tragic events. It was revealed that a small percentage of the population had something called the metagene. When exposed to an extremely hazardous situation, it caused the body to create a defense against that particular form of harm. This idea was even used at the basis for one of the aliens' weapons, the gene bomb, which caused anyone's metagene to go wild. It caused a large number of heroes and villains to become incapacitated. It also gave rise, eventually, to some new heroes and villains as well. With a nice variety of villain types, a good straightforward idea for the plot, and the introduction of the metagene concept, Invasion warps to number 5. Number 4, The Final Night. This was one of the few crossovers where the event isn't started by an evil scheme to take over the world. This is precipitated by a more or less natural disaster. It starts with the arrival of a woman named Dusk. Obviously, the fact that her name is also a word for when the sun sets is just a coincidence. She tells them that a huge extraterrestrial creature known as the Sun Eater is heading for the solar system. It's truth in advertising, this thing eats stars. If you're a fan of the Legion of Superheroes, you'll notice this particular threat as being from a classic adventure. As a nod to the original idea of the Sun Eater, this story takes place while some of the Legion is trapped in the past. Basically, the Sun Eater surrounds the sun, cutting off both the light and heat. In a few days, without the sun, Earth will go past the point where it can recover. Superheroes and villains are forced to work together in order to try and save the planet from a slow, cold death. You can feel the tension grow as plans are tried and fail. The series also uses a nice device for showing how far gone the planet was by showing Superman slowly losing his powers as he, too, no longer has access to the power of the yellow sun. A chilling tale, literally. The Final Night coolly coasts to number 4.